In this video, we will be learning about circles and how to find their circumferences. The definition of a circle is that a circle is the set of all points in a plane that are the same distance from a point called the center. What this means is that there is a center here, and the distance between this point and a point on the edge of the circle is the same distance no matter where the point is on the circle. The distance between the center and the edge of the circle is called the radius, and the distance across the circle is called the diameter. The diameter is twice the size of the radius, and the distance around the circle is called the circumference. So let's go over these two examples. In the first example, it says the diameter of the circle is 20 feet. Find the radius. We said earlier that the diameter is twice the length of the radius. Therefore, the radius is half of the diameter. So in this example, the radius will be 10 feet. In the second example, the radius of the circle is 7 meters. Find the diameter. Again, the diameter is twice the size of the radius. So what do you think the diameter is? That's right, it's 14 meters. Now let's take a moment to pause the video and answer these two questions about the diameter and radius of a circle. Don't forget, because these are units of measurement, we need to include their units of measure in our answers. So for example, centimeters, meters, yards, inches, etc. The perimeter is the distance around a shape, but in a circle, the distance around the shape has a special name, which is the circumference. We can find the circumference when we are given either the radius or the diameter. We have two formulas we can use to help us determine the circumference. But before we learn about the formula for circumference, we need to learn a little bit about pi. Pi is an irrational number, which means it's a decimal number that never ends. The digits after the decimal continue infinitely without a pattern. Oftentimes, pi is rounded to the nearest hundredth, so it's rounded to 3.14. On your calculator, there's a button that's called pi, and that can be used to make your calculations when you're doing problems with circumference. So to find the circumference of a circle, there are two different formulas, and we can choose which formula to use based on whether or not we're given the value of the radius or the diameter. If the radius is given, we can use the formula c is equal to 2 pi r. Or if we're given the diameter, we can use the formula c is equal to pi times d. So let's go over some examples. In this example, we want to find the circumference of the flying disc. We are given the measurement of 5 inches. What part of the circle does this 5 represent? Is this the radius, or does this represent the diameter? That's right, it's the radius. So since we're given the radius, we should use the formula that c, or circumference, is equal to 2 pi r. Now in between all of these, there's that invisible multiplication between each of them that we don't see. So a multiplication sign here and a multiplication sign here. But remember, when we're doing algebra or substitution, we choose not to put in these symbols of multiplication, and if we put them next to each other, we know that it's just being multiplied. It's important to write down our formulas so that we make sure we do the correct substitutions. So in our formula for here, we're going to have that c, or circumference, is equal to 2 times pi times r. So I'm going to rewrite and make a substitution. I have 2 times pi, and I'm going to change this for my radius, which is now 5, which is going to give me 2 times 5, which is 10 times pi. Because multiplication, the order doesn't matter, I can do 2 times 5, and I get 10 pi. Now if we leave our answer like this would be the most exact answer that we can give. But we can also use our calculator and determine what the decimal number is for this. So we're going to do 10 times pi in our calculator, and we get 31.41592654. Now this is a really long decimal number, so let's round this to 2 decimal places. So in this case, the circumference that we have for this example is 31.42 inches. And don't forget, we need to include our units. In this next example, we're trying to find the circumference of the watch face. And in this picture, we see that we're given the measurement of 28 millimeters. Now, before we can continue, we need to determine, is this given measurement, is this the radius or is this the diameter? Yeah, it's the diameter. So because we're given the diameter, we're going to use the formula C is equal to pi times d. So we're going to write down our formula. I'm going to substitute my d for now 28. So I'm going to have C is equal to pi times 28. I'm going to punch this into my calculator, and I am going to get 87.9645943 millimeters. And again, this is a really long decimal number, so let's try to round this one to the nearest one decimal place. And hopefully you're getting 88.0 millimeters. So take a moment now to pause the video, and with a calculator, you can try to find the circumference of these two objects. For both of these, round your answers to the nearest tenth. Again, the nearest tenth means that we want to round this to the nearest one decimal place. Again, if you get stuck, go back and look at the last two examples, especially to help you figure out which formula you should use.